Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. That was the new theme song for the show by Ken Arrow. It's called Spooky. Do follow him. I got his information on the description box below and on the rolling credits of each video now. Graphic works done by Jimi Sunderland. She does great work. And thank you for your work, Jimi. Do follow her on Twitch. Her information toward Twitch is called Image Productions. Do follow her. She's trying to get up to 100 followers on Twitch. So there is that. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit my channel. Be sure to comment and be sure to subscribe to this channel here on YouTube. Hit the notification bell and follow me on Twitch and follow me also on Twitter and Facebook. So let's talk about the 2024 election, about a controversial video. But before I do, let's start with what we need to start with, obviously, and that's Cornel West. You know, you've heard the news by now, and if you haven't, where have you been? Cornel West is running for president of the United States, and he's seeking the nomination of the People's Party, as it stands right now, the People's Party for the presidency of the United States. I personally think that while he probably still represents the People's Party, and I have no issues about it one way or the other, others do, but he's going to have to reach out to that he and the People's Party are going to have to reach out to other third parties and to make this thing happen as far as ballot access in as many states as possible. So, and I wish them the best of luck in that regard, because I do support Cornel West, regardless of party affiliation. So I do support Cornel West for president. I want to make that known where I stand in that regard. So anyway, what I also want to discuss is the fact that that essentially, I mean, some people say, well, why don't you work inside the Democratic Party? Well, you know, could. But I've seen what's happened when working inside the Democratic Party. I saw what happened to Bernie twice, Bernie Sanders. And, you know, and look who's playing the role of Bernie this year. We're having Robert Kennedy Jr. and we're having Marianne Williamson. So, and Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson have some strong points, and they both have some setbacks on some policy positions. They're both better than Biden. And I even think some of the harshest critics on the left kind of poo-pooing their run for their presidency would have to at least acknowledge that. So, so anyway, regarding the presidential run, there's also controversy with Kyle Kulinski and Krystal Ball regarding their candidate for president. And I suspect that if Bernie were running, that they would be behind Bernie Sanders, considering that it looks like that Bernie Sanders is not going to run in 2024. And frankly, I'm kind of glad that he isn't, for his sanity, for my sanity. I don't think I could go through another mental breakdown again, like I did in 2016 and 2020. You know, it's best that he doesn't run for the presidency again. There are a lot of people in my area of the online left that are not particularly too keen on Marianne Williamson. And I frankly do understand their concerns, and I actually would be inclined to agree with some of those concerns. Maybe not all of them, but certainly many of their concerns. As far as Kyle Kulinski and Krystal Ball, conflict of interest, I don't see it as a controversy, because Marianne Williamson is not going to get the nomination. Robert Kennedy's not going to get the nomination. And it's unfair to them both because the Democratic Party is so damn corrupt. I mean, Joe, there's not going to be a debate official by the Democratic Party. There is a primary. There's just not going to be any primary debates. And so my advice is to take it to the American people. Go to the independent media. And even go to semi-hostile media that won't be so hostile to Robert Kennedy and Marianne Williamson for the moment because their bigger fish to fry is Joe Biden. Don't care if that's what they're after. I'm talking about the people on the conservative side. Use the conservatives to promote your own ends. I mean, use them. Do what it takes. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, regarding Marianne Williamson, again, I have no beef against her. I have no ill will. I don't endorse her because I have my ideological reasons. But I'm not going to act like, she's the worst thing ever. She's not Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's not Hillary Clinton. Thank God. She's not any of them, Robert Kennedy, he's not Ron DeSantis, he's not Adam Schiff. So, I would say that if they want to run inside the Democratic Party, they think they can save the Democratic Party. If they can do it, great. I have seen it for myself in the years that the Democratic Party can be salvaged. It simply can't be salvaged. So what I want to do is I want to play this video from Krystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski as they were driving, just finding out a few days, I guess a day later, that what's his name? Cornel West. I'm having brain fart right now. Cornel West is running for president. So and I want to give you their reaction and as they're driving down the highway. And if you notice on the thumbnail, you see a picture of Kyle Kulinski and Krystal Ball driving a Trabant. I highly doubt they own a Trabant. It was just my humor at work. I just had a wild hair up my ass and kind of superimposed them like they were driving a Trabant. And for those that don't know what a Trabant is, that was a state car from East Germany when East Germany was communist. They produced like an automobile for the people called a Trabant. Anyway. It's a cute car, but a lot of people thought the car was a piece of shit. And this performance was kind of questionable, but it was just a cute dig. I just thought it was funny, so I just trying to explain the joke behind the thumbnail. So anyway, let me go ahead and play the video. I'll give y'all my take, and we'll start at the beginning. Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Currently driving on a beautiful day, enjoying the sunshine and whatnot. Krystal just gave me some terrible news, which is that Chris Sununu is not running for president.
I know you're heartbroken.
It makes me so sad.
I think you called him Chris Sahuhu, was your nickname for him.
Nobody knows it. His family is like, who? Nobody cares about Chris.
Well, at least what you can say for him is he has at least like 10% intelligence and self-awareness to realize that shit wasn't going nowhere.
Yeah, so. Which, by the way, says a lot about like Nikki Haley and Tim Scott and these people. Yeah. Like, they really thought, like, yeah,
Mike Pence is launching, Chris Christie is launching this week. That dude from North Dakota. Borson, something like that.
I don't even know what this is.
He released a teaser launch I'm running for president clip. So
did you see the so Asa Hutchinson is running, that he's right. Like the governor of
the governor of South Dakota, Arkansas.
Arkansas, that's right. And Trump was doing the Hannity town hall, and he's like, this guy, I don't even know why he's running. Asa Hutchinson, I call him Ada. We call him Ada for a lot of reasons.
He said for certain reasons.
For certain reasons. I was like, what does that mean? Ada is not a thing. a caricature of himself. You know, like that's some shit I would say, like pretending to be Trump because it's like makes no sense. But he did it.
I just don't know why he has to be so terrible
I know,
and
he's
so
funny.
hilarious at the same time. It's really
It's
cruel,
not right.
actually.
It's like a terrible mix of like
nothing
evil,
right
but
about
also will make you laugh every time he
You
opens
just
his
can't
mouth.
help it.
I know. Oh my god, he's like real life Eric Cartman. You know. He is. Anyway, all right. So the reason why.
Yeah, that is true. Donald Trump is a real life Eric Cartman. I'll give them that.
We're recording is because we just got news. It came out like a couple hours ago. Apparently, Cornel West is running for president. Now, he's not running as a Democrat. He's not running in the Green Party. He's not even running as an independent, although I think that might be a little up in the air depending on the structure of the party he's actually running for. But he's running in the People's Party. Now, for those of you who don't know, the People's Party was created, I believe it was after the 2016 race of Bernie. A staffer for Bernie by the name of Nick Brana decided he was going to create this third party. So they've been around since, I don't know, 2016 or 17 or 18 at the latest, something like that.
Yeah.
And they've been around since then. They don't have ballot access, and they've never gotten a candidate elected. So, and then there's been all this reporting and all these questions around the structure of the organization. There's all sorts of like sexual harassment allegations against Nick Brana. There was some sort of like a coup of the leadership positions that Brana did. Like it basically, the organization itself is a total mess, right?
Okay. Here's the thing. As far as Nick Brana is concerned, and if he's guilty, he's a horrible person if he's guilty. But everybody's innocent until proven guilty. I do believe in evidence. Having that said, are you going to judge a political party by one person being possibly? I mean, possibly. We're talking about somebody who's being accused of being, I'm going to be nice. Somebody who sexually harasses someone. I mean, somebody who's being accused of that. Again, are you going to go and do that when you have both the president of the United States, who's the head of the Democratic Party, has been accused of that? Again, all hearsay, but he was accused of that. Same thing with Donald Trump being accused. But all of a sudden, it's, you're not going to vote for a party because somebody's being accused of that. But you both will vote for a party that you're currently registered as right now because, you're registered as Democrats, and the head of the Democratic Party, the president of the United States, who is a Democrat, has been accused of these things. But you're probably very likely to vote for him next year. The person being accused of it, Cornel West, as far as we know, never has done anything like this. He's going to be the presidential candidate of the People's Party, not Nick Brana, who's only accused. We don't know. We haven't been there. We don't know what's going on. I'm not defending anybody who sexually harasses another person. I'm not. But again, we're talking about a political party filled with people. Probably not that many people in the People's Party. I get it. They're trying to be a third party. But you're going to go and write off a political party for one person being accused of, let's say, unethical behavior with another person or multiple persons. Okay. All right.
Right. So when it comes to Cornel West, I love Cornel West. We had him on Crystal Island Friends.
He's a hero of mine.
He's a
really
brilliant dude.
Respect him, yeah.
And I also love how he's really good at going into spaces where like people would disagree with him and making himself be really likable and really agreeable while not like giving up his principles at all.
Yes.
Like he did a great job on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's just a very dynamic, charismatic, intelligent guy who I happen to agree with on probably 90% of policy stuff.
Yeah.
So I love Cornel West. I always love Cornel West. But honestly, my theory on this, and I'm curious what you think, Crystal, is that I don't think he looked into the People's Party at all. You know what I mean? Like, I genuinely think it's sort of like a Boomer moment where he was approached and, hey, we want you to run and be our candidate or whatever. Which, by the way, is a whole separate question because usually the way these things work is you have a fucking primary to determine who your candidate is going to be, and the People's Party apparently just anoints somebody.
Okay, we're talking about small political party who can't really do primaries because, we're a state with 50, we're a country with 50 states, and you're trying to do a third party. Yeah, you can make an argument. Is it really worth a small party starting big by running a presidential campaign? You can have an argument about that, debate about that. You really could. But they're in a position of running a presidential campaign, and they had no choice but to, quote unquote, anoint. When I belong to a third party. I belonged to several third parties in the past, but one particular third party I did belong to. And I was involved with the nomination process of two presidential candidates, one in the year 1999 for the year 2000, and the other one in the year 2003 for the year 2004. And certainly that political party was not on the ballot in 50 states. Not at all. So what are you to do when if you're political and you have a right to run for president, no matter how small your party is, you do have a right to run for president. So, I mean, when people be like, oh, you're too small, don't run for president. It may seem kind of like silly, but you know what? Considering what asshats have been occupying the White House all my entire life, I haven't seen any president from Richard Nixon to Gerald Ford to Jimmy Carter to Ronald Reagan to George Herbert Walker Bush to Bill Clinton to George W. Bush for damn sure, to Barack Obama, to Donald Trump, to Joe Biden. I haven't seen any of these presidents currently or in the past that I could be proud of. Looking back from then on to now, the trajectory has been pretty much gotten worse and worse and worse with each presidential cycle for the most part. Strangely enough, the only improvement was after George W. Bush. I hate to say it, and it's a very low bar. George W. Bush done so much damage to the United States and to the world that the very mild improvement of Obama and Biden and even Trump were all three an improvement to George W. Bush. But we're still in a pile of shit because of the dystopia Bush and Cheney created. And you know what? I think that for what I can tell, listening to both Kyle Kulinski and Krystal Ball over the years, I think that they would probably agree with that analogy mostly about, especially in terms of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. So I had a little spot on the screen. Sorry about that. So anyway, I'll let them continue.
Which is kind of weird if you want to be like, we're the democracy people. Are you really? You just anointed somebody the head of your party. That's not the way you're supposed to have an election to figure out who's going to be the leader. But anyway,
Fair point.
I love Cornel West. That's a side point, but I don't think he knew like about all the issues with the People's Party. And so all it requires is like a Google search and digging a little bit deep, and he would have found it. But I guess he didn't do it. And so my guess is he's probably surprised right now at the backlash that's happening online. There's a decent amount of backlash where people are like, "What are you doing? Like, do you know like who these people are?" And then I see a lot of people making a point, which I think is a fair point, which is like, if you're going to run as a Green Party or an independent, because the Green Party, for example, I think the last election they had ballot access for 48 states.
Yeah, they have a real organization.
Yeah, even like the Libertarians have between like 48 states and 50 and all the states.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as far as third parties go, the only ones that are even remotely viable, and I use that term loosely, is the Green Party and the Libertarians.
Okay, fair point that the Green Party and the Libertarian parties are viable parties in the sense that they do have a structure and are able to be on the ballot in pretty much all the states. The Libertarians are pretty good about getting on the ballot in all 50 states. The Green Party's been improving in that regard. All this talk about how the Green Party is so dysfunctional and everything, and I don't doubt that. Don't doubt that. But I think all third parties are dysfunctional by its nature. I mean, it is. I mean, you don't really have a lot of corporate funding or wealthy people backing you up. So you're scraping pennies together to make things work. You're not having professional people doing these things. You're having people who are volunteering to go and make things work and function in third parties. So there's a degree of dysfunctionality that exists in independent politics. I mean, it's, on one hand, it's unfortunate, but on the other hand, you can almost respect that better than this machinery, this corporation that exists in the form of the two-party system.
I mean, you also have, DSA out there, which has never fielded a presidential candidate before, but they have, chapters nationwide, and it's a real organization with some sort of, infrastructure that could theoretically be mustered behind you. So it's perplexing. It's very confusing.
Okay, DSA, and I'm no stranger to DSA. And the third party I was talking about earlier is a cousin of DSA. But here's the thing about DSA. It's not a political party. It's a political organization, and they may not want the sheep herd into being cliche Democrats, but in effect, that's what happened. I mean, it's what happened with Bernie. I don't think that Bernie was trying to sheep herd people back into the Democratic Party to be good little Hillary Clintonistas, for foot soldiers for the Clintons and the machine. I think he wanted to go and take over the party, turn the Democratic Party into some kind of a independent Labor Party or a Labor Party. It didn't happen. It was a failure. Kyle, you even admit that Justice Democrats were a failure. The DSA strategy of working inside the Democratic Party turned out to be a failure. And, I hate that it has. It makes my life a little bit more difficult. If working inside the Democratic Party would have been a rip-roaring success, we wouldn't be Norway, Sweden, perhaps. But you know what? We would have a public option. Instead of being 11 or 12% of the workforce with the unions right now, we'll probably be 25 or 30%, or even 40% at the best case scenario. And that is the very best case scenario. We're not that. We have nothing to show for working inside the Democratic Party. Nothing to show.
So the DSA strategy is the same as my strategy, which is, you be part of the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, but run as a Democrat. Now, why would you run as a Democrat? It's very simple. In this country, we have first past the post voting, and we don't have ranked choice voting. As long as you have first past the post voting and you don't have ranked choice voting, you know what's going to happen? No third party candidate is going to win Dickie McGee's axe ever. That's not
okay. Partly true, but not really. And Kyle, I know you study political science, and most of the time you get it. I mean, most of the times when it comes to policy, you do get it. But here's where you're kind of wrong about first past the post system versus ranked choice voting. I agree. Ranked choice voting is the way to go. I wish we could have ranked choice voting, but first past the post system, it's not necessarily doomed to failure. It's a terrible approach, but it doesn't mean that third parties can't win under such a system. Canada has first past the post system. Great Britain has that too, just like the United States. But the difference between Great Britain and Canada, whose system seems to be more similar to each other, versus the United States, is that you can get multiple parties on the ballot, a ballot line in Canada and in the UK with very little trouble compared to the United States. Here in the United States, they actively work to keep third parties off the ballot. And such talk is to discourage third party activism. And you got to have third parties, honestly. You do have to have third parties. And so if they're not going to make a difference, then they're not going to spoil either. I hear the argument, well, they just spoil an election. if a third party can spoil an election, a third party can also win too. So anyway,
an opinion that's a fact. I mean, we don't have any. There are no Green Party members of the House. There are no Green Party members of the Senate. There are no, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
If you change the structure of the system, and we wake up tomorrow and first past the post voting is gone, and we have ranked choice voting, like that, I instantly become the biggest cheerleader for like the Green Party.
Yeah.
But since we don't have that, it's just like it's like self disenfranchisement in a way. It's like let me run without even having a remote prayer of winning, and like just sort of like raise, you know, the status of my ideas or whatever. But oftentimes these things backfire, and it's like you're self disenfranchising, and you become more fringe and more marginalized because nobody takes you seriously. And
yeah, like settling for a corporate Democrat. And no, I'm not accusing you both of that. In fact, when it comes to fighting within the Democratic Party, I do think you both sincerely want to turn the Democratic Party into a Labor Party. I do. But the problem, the argument is, do we have to settle for a corporate Democrat all the time? I'm tired of feeling dirty, you know, and I have felt dirty voting for a Democrat. 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, in the Democratic primaries, just out of fear that the Democratic Party would turn me away from the polls on election day in the primaries here in North Carolina, about 4 weeks, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks before the primary day, I had to go and re-register as a Democrat, and I felt dirty doing that. But I did. I registered as a Democrat so I could go and vote for Bernie Sanders. And as soon as I voted for Bernie Sanders, I drove straight to the Board of Elections in Johnson County. I drove straight to the Johnson County Board of Elections, and I re-registered as a Green Party member. So I just couldn't take a chance. I just couldn't take a chance with regard to them turning me away. So and it sucks. That's what's happening. But I don't want to sit there and have to go and vote for someone like in North Carolina, Roy Cooper for governor, and feel dirty, or vote for someone like whatever. I would leave it blank because, you know, if they're not fighting, if they're not going to fight for Medicare for all, and here in North Carolina, it's a little worse than it is for y'all in Northern Virginia or up in New York, because at least they got to pay a little bit more attention to the unions than they do down here in North Carolina. Here in North Carolina, the Democrats and the Republicans are exactly the same when it comes to the unions. They hate them. They hate unions. Most Democrats are not even interested in labor law reform down here. They're not even interested. So if you can't get Democrats to do something as basic as labor law reform down here in North Carolina, or Medicare for all, they're very controversial down here. You can't get them to do that. There's really no reason for me to vote for a Democrat when it comes to the economic issues.
Mainstream society, because of the nature of the system.
Right. So let me just read. I'll just read his tweet announcing.
It's good. Like, I'm not knocking the guy. I love Cornel West.
Yeah, and he put out a video that you watched. I haven't had a chance to watch.
I thought it was good. It was a good video.
I'm sure it's fantastic. Like, he's brilliant. He's eloquent. He's inspirational. All of that stuff. So he says, "I'm running for truth and justice as a presidential candidate for the People's Party to reintroduce America to the best of itself, fighting to end poverty, mass incarceration, ending wars and ecological collapse, guaranteeing housing, healthcare, education, and living wages for all. Join the movement at CornelWest24.com." So it's left a little ambiguous. Like, maybe they do have some sort of a nominating process, primary process that he would have to theoretically get through. But I mean, I think he will probably be the only prominent person who would step up to be part of that process. So I think we could just assume that he would be their nominee. There's something you're speaking to here, Kyle, which is there's a question of, like, do people have a right to run third party? Of course, like, absolutely.
Absolutely, they have a right to run third parties. In fact, I have gotten into an argument with a conservative who claims he's a libertarian. He's really a Republican. And we were talking about ballot access reform. And what he told me indicates that he does not support third parties because, you know, he said that if somebody approached him in the streets about getting a political candidate or a third party on the ballot, that he doesn't agree with ideologically, that he would actually refuse to, because he felt like he was endorsing that candidate, which is a crock of shit. Because if the Constitution Party, who is a political party that makes Republicans look like the Greens by comparison, came up to me and asked me to for my signature to put them on the ballot, I would gladly go and sign for that petition to put them on the ballot, because I believe that all political parties that wants to be on the ballot should be on the ballot. And if you as an individual refuse to sign somebody's right to be on the ballot or political party's right to be on the ballot, that means you as a legislature would do the same thing. And that means by default, such persons are pro-censorship. I do think that ballot access restrictions in this country is a form of censorship.
More democracy, more candidates, more conversation. Okay, that's all to the good. The question is, what do you tactically hope to achieve? And in a sense, there was a trial run of this tactic in 2016 of, okay, so if Jill Stein runs and takes some percentage of the vote that, you know, was significant, and whether this is true or not, the Democrats blame her for siphoning enough votes from Hillary for Trump to ultimately win.
Well, I know you don't know that. I know you know that that's not true. And I know he knows that's not true. But there's a lot of dumbasses out there that think, oh, yeah, voting for Jill Stein caused Trump to win the presidency. If I had to endure that for about a year, hearing that bullshit from people. I had to, in fact, I finally did tell one person off that I just kept on just having to hear her mouth lecture me every 2 or 3 months about what an asshole I was for voting for Jill Stein. So, I mean, just, and I finally had the satisfaction of telling that person off. But yeah, there are Democrats that feel like if you voted for Jill Stein, you caused Trump to win the election. They even think if you voted for Hillary Clinton, but voted for Bernie Sanders in the primaries, the fact that you chose Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton instead of sitting there and licking her asshole from day one, they think that you caused Trump to win the election, even though you begrudgingly voted for Hillary Clinton on election day anyway. And there are Republicans who are just as unhinged. I remember in 2012, there was a lady in 2012 that shouted one day around election time. She was anti-Obama, and I think she was anti-Obama because she was racist. But she was like, if you vote for anybody other than Mitt Romney, you voted for Barack Obama. He is a Muslim Marxist. And I'm just like, really? The whole birther thing. I mean, and then calling him a Marxist. I mean, as a socialist, I feel insulted when they call a lot of these Democrats who stand for nothing and are usually half the time just as right wing, at least on some economic issues and defense policies as the Republicans, and still you call them socialists. My goodness. Anyway.
The tactical theory that they would offer is, even if you're running third party and you know you can't win because of these structural disadvantages set up in the U.S. political system, you have a chance to raise issues and push the Democratic Party to the left. Well, we tried that in 2016 with Jill Stein.
And the opposite happened.
All
right. So they still blamed you for losing, and you became more marginalized.
Instead, they blamed and smeared anyone who even considered or said a friendly word about Jill Stein. They use that to tag leftists as being like Trump, enablers and like fascist adjacent and whatever. And rather than feeling pressure to move to the left, they actually pushed that, they sort of excised all the left. They took it as an excuse to disregard everything that the left was saying. And just, in terms of a tactic, it was a failure.
And you know what? Prior to 2016, you want to know what happened? And you both were kind of young when it was happening, but I'm not insulting y'all saying this, but the Democratic Leadership Council, you know what the Democratic Leadership Council did? They went and fucking Reaganized the Democratic Party during the 1990s. And what did a decent Democrats do inside? The ones who wanted to keep the Democratic Party in the FDR direction, not the neo-Reagan direction it went on. They went and they voted for Bill and Hillary Clinton and all the horrible Democrats on the ballot anyway. and they felt dirty doing this. So no matter what you do, the Democrats are going to find an excuse to go right, whether you rebel against them or whether you're their little foot soldiers. They're going to go and do it anyway.
By the way, so I will say, me personally, I'm not of the belief that Jill Stein cost Hillary Clinton the election for a variety of reasons. But when they polled Jill Stein voters directly, it was less than 50% of them that said if Jill wasn't on the ballot, I would vote for Hillary. So the numbers just didn't work for Jill.
That's fine.
I agree with you. But to reiterate your overarching point, which is undeniable, is that if the theory of change was we're going to run, we're not even necessarily trying to win, but we're going to use this to then push the Democratic Party left because they have to contend with us because now we're a serious voice and we have enough of a percentage to be taken seriously. No, that was proven incorrect. The exact opposite happened.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why y'all are both wrong about that. You talk about first past the post system. And we're going to go with a country that's very close to the United States called Canada. There are multiple parties in Canada. You got the Liberal Party, which is basically identical to the Democratic Party here in the United States. You got the Conservative Party, which is identical to the Republican Party here in the United States. You got Quebec the Bloc, which is like some kind of social democratic / centrist party, but they want to do their own thing and be their own country. And you got the New Democratic Party, the NDP, which is Canada's Labour Party, their socialist party, where the left go, where the trade unions go. And it's a third party. And sometimes the third is a successful third party, and sometimes they go through a downward period. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes when you're in Canada, some voters have to choose whether to vote Liberal or vote NDP if you occupy the center left or you have center left political leanings or far left political leanings. If you have far left political leanings, I guess your vote will go to the NDP. But if you're moderate left, you're kind of conflicted whether you want to vote for the NDP or the Liberal Party. Same thing in the UK, but it's in reverse. The Liberal Party, the Liberal Democrat Party is a third party, a very useless party, by the way, one of the most useless parties around in you can imagine. But they are a third party, and the Labour Party is the dominant party, and the Conservatives is the other dominant party. So if you want to vote for a party of trade unions and socialists and social democrats, theoretically. And sometimes Labor is in that mood, sometimes they're not. But anyway, you vote Labor. Sometimes if you think that the Labor Party's too far left, you end up voting for the Liberal Democrats if the Conservatives are too far right for you. That's how it works in the UK. So first past the post system works. That's basically what I'm saying.
They took them less seriously. They smeared them more. They blamed them more. If anything, the Democrats went further to the right.
Right. Crushed them more, did more to get Green Party candidates kicked off of ballots, all of that stuff. Instead of saying, let me listen to these people, they said.
That's all the more reason to fight the corporate Democrats. What they did here in North Carolina against Matthew Hoh, taking the Green Party off the ballot, and they were able to successfully fight their way back onto the ballot again. They were. But that's not a reason to try to work inside the Democratic Party.
He said, let me crush and smear and marginalize and dismiss these people. And those efforts did have some success. So as a tactic, I think you have to be open when you're looking at political change to, okay, what from the array of potential tactics works? On the other hand, as much as there are criticisms to make about Bernie's 2020 campaign, plenty of those you and I have made ourselves, the fact that Bernie Sanders was on that stage pushing issues like student debt cancellation forced Joe Biden to have to take positions on those issues that he wouldn't otherwise have taken. And I do think the student debt cancellation piece is the most clear cut. He did not want to do any student debt cancellation. He didn't want to talk about student debt cancellation when he was president. He dragged his feet about it. But because...
And guess what, Crystal? Once Joe Biden came in, he kept one promise. There was not going to be any fundamental changes. Probably the biggest change of them all. And I'm sorry y'all took the position y'all initially took on the foreign policy side on Ukraine. Of course, your position is not the worst and most hawkish, but it's a little too hawkish for me. That's what Joe Biden gave us. He didn't give us health care. He didn't give us labor law reforms, but he certainly gave our tax dollars to go fund neo-Nazis indirectly, as off Italian assholes in the Ukraine. That's the Biden legacy. I see right there. That is the Biden legacy.
Because on the campaign trail, he had been forced into a position in the primary debates of saying something and making a very clear-cut commitment on student debt cancellation. He ended up having to do something on it as president. So you do see how within the context of a Democratic primary, you can actually force a Joe Biden to take positions that he wouldn't otherwise take. And that creates some pressure points to, cause some change that he wouldn't otherwise engage in with the power that he has.
But the more important point.
But he didn't engage in it. I mean, if he did, it was so half-assed that it was meaningless.
To me is he actually got really fucking close to winning.
Yeah, well,
he got over 43% of the vote, right? Like he was right there, close to winning, closer than any third-party candidate in modern American history, closer by quintuple the amount, right? Like just nowhere near it. So for me, and this is also something I have an issue with, it's like I don't like the whole like I'm not running to win thing in any scenario. I just don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of time. Yeah. And I don't think this idea of like, oh, I'm just raising awareness for the issues. I don't think that actually bears out in reality.
And it's a waste of time to end up voting for Hillary Clinton. I know that y'all are not fans of Hillary Clinton. Again, I know that about y'all, but that's what we're dealing with most of these people who have to end up feeling dirty voting for a Hillary Clinton type, a Joe Biden type, that's what you're dealing with, the mentality.
I think you should run to win. I think you should take it seriously and run to win. Now, in the final summation, though, I will say this. There is no contradiction here between like my support of Marianne Williamson in the primary versus what would happen in a general. Because if Marianne doesn't win the primary and there's a general election, and I, the resident of New York, have a choice to vote for Biden, Trump, or Cornel West, I'm going to cast my vote for Cornel West.
I'm glad you are going to cast your vote for Cornel West. And you should cast your vote for Cornel West if you live in a swing state, too. You should cast your vote for Cornel West if it's the deepest red state, the deepest bluest state, or the purplest of purple states. Because you should vote for what you want. In other words, you should vote for what you want, even if you're not going to get what you want, than to vote for what you don't want and you end up getting it. Because that's exactly what happens to most of us. We end up voting for what we don't want and we get what we don't want because the other side, what they have to offer is usually worse. And, and I'm not making any bones about it. I do think that voting Republican, I do think Republican policies are a little bit, they tend to be worse than the Democratic version of it. But the Democrats are pretty damn bad too. The Republicans give you really shitty policies at 300 miles an hour, and the Democrats give you really shitty policies at 55 miles an hour. That's the difference between the two parties. My friend Dwight Welsh, I said this last night in the stream, says that the problem with liberalism today is basically it's degenerated into being the nanny state without the actual nanny. And that's what's happened.
But the difference between me and a lot of other people on the left is I see a lot of like hope and delusion that this is going to like usher in the revolution or usher in real change. When in reality, you cannot fool yourself. This absolutely is a protest vote, which will change Dickie McGee's acts. Like it won't change anything. If you want to vote that way as a matter of principle, fine. But don't convince yourself that anything other than like I'm just doing a middle finger to the system with like 2% of other people in the country who agree with me on doing this vote.
And that's
and listen, the middle finger sometimes is all we have. The middle finger is all we have. Well, some of us are starting to yell at these politicians too, and they need to be yelled at.
A best case scenario, if they even have ballot access, like if
you can always write them in. You can
always write them in, but if they even are able to make that a real option for people across.
Which I do think it'll either be a moot point because either they won't have ballot access, number one, or number two, he will say I'm running as a People's Party candidate as an independent, and so he'll be running as an independent. I think it'll be one of those two things.
Yeah.
That's my best guess.
I mean, I will say, in terms of the general election, there's a huge interest in a potential independent candidate this time because,
I don't agree. I know what you're saying according to the poll. I know what you're saying, but I don't agree. Finish your point.
People are disgusted with the idea of like having to pick between Trump and Biden. There's no doubt about it. And so I think there are 2016 levels of interest in a third party candidate. In 2020, there wasn't really a significant third-party effort that garnered much support. So I think you could theoretically have like Jill Stein levels of support for a third-party candidate this time around. Yeah,
it was like 3%.
But that was a lot more than in 2020. So that's
All that's true, but I will say this: there's always, a yearning to vote independent. I think that most people would love to vote independent, but they are conditioned. They are conditioned that, well, nobody listens to me. It'll be just a waste of time. So I'm going to go and vote for this shitty candidate because the other candidate is shittier. Y'all are doing that while sounding a little bit smarter than the average Joe and Jane that comes up with that mindset. But it's still the same conclusion. The conclusion stinks.
So that's what I mean.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the level of third-party support that that I think someone could theoretically garner this time around. But again, you have to Green Party is a real organization. They had ballot access almost everywhere, and that does make a huge difference in terms of what you're able to do.
And they have problems too, but it's nowhere near what the People's Party has. I mean, it's just not remotely close. But I see these polls too, where it's 70% of the country is open to an independent candidate, and then every election rolls around, and every election it's everybody who votes, which is only 50% of the country, 60% of the country, it's overwhelmingly Democrats and Republicans. So it's all those polls say that. People in theory love the idea, but then in reality they don't. And again, the reason why I'll reiterate my original points is the most important point. If you are not first and foremost putting front and center, we're going to get rid of first past and post voting and get ranked choice voting, then this is all a total waste of time. And it's very weird to me that everybody likes to put the cart before the horse in this discussion. It's no, I'm not having this conversation until you do that first. If you
you can do what you want to do, and I'm not judging you both for this. If you really feel strongly about working inside the Democratic Party, I'm not one of those independents. They're going to be zealot about it. If you want to go and vote inside the Democratic Party, you go ahead and do it. I mean, and I would disagree with y'all on that. On everything else, policy-wise, you're both brilliant, but you're not on this electoralism. Of course, everything is subjective, I guess, but and I mean it's sad. It's sad that this is what we're stuck with here in the United States as far as electoral politics is concerned. And I don't see any way out of it. I used to believe that one day, 30 years down the road, 30 years ago, that we will eventually have multiple parties. But now I don't think it's going to happen because everybody's so fucking scared of the other side on both sides.
If you do that and you come to me and say, Kyle, we need you to be a spokesperson for the Green Party, bro, sign me up. I'm in. Let's do this shit.
Right.
But if you don't do that first, it's don't waste my time. Don't put the cart before the horse. Don't pretend there's a thing here that's going to happen. Here's what's going to be. People might make fun of Marianne Williams here being at 11% in the polls. 11% is going to be 11 times what these other candidates are going to be at. So anyway, that's my issue with it. But look, I love Cornel West. I always will. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's brilliant. We had him on Crystal Ball and Friends. Almost every time I've covered him, it's been covering him in positive fashion because he says brilliant things. I agree with his politics 90%. I just do think that this happens to be an instance where I just don't think he did enough background research into what the People's Party is and what their record is and how sketchy and questionable they are. And so he ended up agreeing to it. And I guarantee you right now, I would guess that he's surprised at the backlash that he's getting from people who are otherwise massive allies to him. And I mean, I rolled through the replies to his tweet, his video.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who are absolute Cornel West stans who are
what are you doing?
Hey, dog,
Look, he's seen what happened to Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020. He's seen what happened to Bernie twice. And so, what are people like myself who was, just like you both were. I was a Bernie bro in 2016, 2020. I'm a recovering Bernie bro. I was part of that Bernie cult. I could write a book on what dedication I gave to that man in terms of being a follower of Bernie Sanders. Okay. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad he's not going to do this again. Now, would I vote for Bernie Sanders for re-election in the U.S. Senate if I lived in Vermont? Yes, I would. But I even think that he might need to hang it up there too. I just think that sometimes people need to start all over. But anyway.
If this was the Green Party, you'd have me 100%. If it was just, I'm an independent, not affiliated with the People's Party, you have me 100%. But the fact that it's the People's Party, you're sort of getting taken advantage of a little bit. You probably should have done your due diligence and looked a little deeper into it and then made a little bit more of a reasonable decision on this front. So anyway, the final summation, like I said, I'm a man of my word. I said I'm supporting Marianne Williamson from the beginning. I'm still supporting Marianne Williamson. She's running in the Democratic primary. He's not running in the Democratic primary. If it gets to a general election and he's on the ballot versus Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I will probably vote for Cornel West, but I'm not under any illusions that this is going to usher in the revolution or it's going to bring about real change. Nothing.
Same here, Kyle. I don't think that voting for, that's just it. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen either. I don't think there's any revolution going to happen either. But I don't want to go and vote and enable a worthless Democrat like Joe Biden with my vote. They don't deserve my support.
Ever will the third party route until you get rid of first past the post voting and do ranked choice voting.
Okay. All right. No. Get rid of. Got a StreamYard commercial there. So anyway, that was pretty much it for that. And again, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my time doing this anymore. Again, I'm not sitting there. I'm not going to sit there and lecture people as if you must go and vote my way. But I'm going to go and give y'all my take on it and why I think it makes sense to go as independent as possible. So, that's where I absolutely stand. So right now we have here Choose the Heretic, Choose Carnation Revolutionists. Now, how are you doing, my friend? It's driving with the window closed because otherwise the bees are coming after the highlighter hair. That's funny. He does look ridiculous with that blonde hair. That slim, shady look. Let's see here. Let's see. Kyle's name is Cole Yeller. Doesn't he have any awareness that people make fun of that hair? Let's see. Good morning, Willie. I've been up all night. Schmoozing lawyer here and schmoozing lawyers there. Yep. Good morning. It's actually almost time for me to go to bed, to tell you the truth. But yes, good morning. Let's see. Will you need a guy? Will you need a guy? I got a guy. Let's see. Well, I need. I'm sorry. I'm late or early, depending on how you look at it. Will you need a guy? I got a guy. You got to go to the guy. I got doctors. I got lawyers. I got media people. Blue, gaga, Google, gaga. That's right. I guess. I got the active Damians to dollars. Let's see here. Ain't this great? Getting up early, making the big bucks. I was out there talking to the birds. They're pissed. No, I just got back from Denny's a short while ago. I was, something I do when I get a little bit of free time on my night off. So let's see. Don't mind me, Willie. I won't talk about Knights of Malta or say 50 times like Rick Walker did while he was telling us he wasn't going to talk about. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. The problem with politics it's not sensitive to the logic. No, it brings out the irrationality in most people. For instance, we don't have any historical examples of successful political solutions for fascism, and our fascism isn't actually special. Well, maybe in one sense it is. We have what I call a bipartisan fascism. It's a fascism that I think that maybe both parties, well, one of them are not aware of, but they're both parties are kind of contributing it in their own different ways. Willie, don't worry. I won't worry if you don't read my chats. I'm keeping you company. I heard you say you got Carnation Revolution on the back burner. No disrespect. There's a misnomer about the chat lines. I usually wait till the end to read the chat lines. That's how I operate. Otherwise, I'll just no disrespect to people when they chat with me on the. But if I stop in the middle, I rarely stop in the middle to to chat with people. I usually wait till the very end. So I'm not ignoring anybody. Usually I see what's going on and all of that. So I'm a good listener. I don't talk too much, but I'm doing the work of 40 people down here. I was born like 40 babies. Ask my mom. That's why she gave me a strange name. Oh, okay. There you go. Let's see. Ever since I was born, my dad said, "I wish I could get the fuck out of this feeding the army." Yeah, I have no kids, so thankfully there's no army to feed in that regard. Let's see here. More daddy smacked me around more than I ate ice cream sandwiches in the wee hours. Okay. Let's see, Willie. If I go to the 74 ice cream sandwich breakfast, does that make me a bad person? I miss daddy. No, there's nothing wrong with eating ice cream sandwiches. Google makes never been to the 7 cents. Is that what it says? 7E. Okay. I'm having trouble seeing right now. Let's see. Crystal looks more miserable than Jackie Onassis. Oh my God. I think she's ready to come to the Choosy Summit. She does not look too thrilled at the moment. And I think that he's not fully aware until the stream is over. I kind of think she let him have it. Poor guy. Let's see. How long have they been married? They just got married, like about I think almost about a month now. I think they look more like they got the 3-month itch. Let's see here. See, Willie, watch closely to see if Crystal flashed any of those rescue hand signals. That's funny. Let's see here. Oh my God. If my husband talked that fast, I'd be bumming too. Let's see here. Stephanie says, is this live, Willie? Is showing it's a rerun to Twitch. No, this is live. This is not a rerun at all. I don't know what's going on with Twitch. It's not a rerun at all. I promise. If you're still online, what do you do what do you think of what do you think of stuff? You must be high on Hitler's meth forts or something. I don't know. Let's see. Crystal looks like she's searching for a roadside for hot tamale stands. Took honey. There's one pulled over. Okay. I take it that there is. Excuse me. I take it by how fast they're talking. They're on their way back from getting coffee, not on the way. Yeah, I have no idea where they're going. I presume that they're on Highway 95. I presume. Let's see. Anybody that talks die fast marriage is probably damn if it's just going to explode. That their heads is going to pop off. Yep. Let's see here. It's what happened to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Deer heads all exploded. Okay. There's a lot of I can actually look up. I can't. Let's see. There's a lot of chats here. Okay, I'm actually going to have to go right now because I'm getting sleepy. But I will look over these chats. I try to look over these chats and all that for later. I want to make a quick announcement tonight at 6 p.m. Tonight at 6 p.m. I'm going to have Angie Moon on my program. Hold on a second here. Here she is. Hold on. Right there it is. Angie Moon is in commemoration of Pride Month. I'm going to have Angie Moon at 6 p.m. this evening. And she's going to talk about her life as a bisexual woman and what life is like and what it means in terms of equality for the LGBTQ community in England and around the world, and what's going on here in America. She lives in the UK. She's American. So she's going to share her story and share her perspective. So be here at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all that. So anyhow, if y'all like what you heard, please press like and comment. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. In addition thereof, be sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, to subscribe, hit the notification bell here on YouTube to help independent media flourish, because corporate media has nothing to offer us. Until next time, I am Willie Bragg, and I will see you all very, very soon. Until next time, Cornel West for President 2024. And this is the outro theme by Ken Arrow. He's the one that does the music. Jimi Sunderland does the graphics. So here we go. Y'all take care. Have a good one.